Strange car parts have strange names. This buddy right here is what's called the Sol-Vac. It has nothing to do with music, and contrary to popular belief, it is also not a tool of the devil. It is a solenoid and a vacuum diaphragm actuator, which oh so slightly kicks forward your throttle. And it actually has two adjustments. Even I didn't know that until I read the manual on it. And it was kind of like, really? You have your usual screw up here. And the idea is that when a vacuum is applied, I'll show you that, this gets pushed forward a little bit. When there's no vacuum, it goes back. And usually that's just the force of the throttle spring that'll do it. There's also this little doohickey on the back here. It's actually free moving from the push rod. And that's normal because this here is the solenoid side. This is the adjustment that says how far in or how far out the solenoid is going to go. The Sol-Vac can be controlled by one of two things. One of which by the computer, the other by the operator of the vehicle. The computer can extend the vacuum diaphragm using the VSV, or vacuum switching valve. If you're a vehicle which doesn't have secondary air, you'll only find one solenoid mounted on top of your valve cover. The other way that the computer can operate with it is through the idle speed control relay right here. The idle speed control relay, the rear defroster, the headlights, and the air conditioner are all passing through a set of diodes in this black box right here. So while the computer can extend the push rod, it is up to either a signal or a battery voltage going through one of these diodes, or a battery voltage passing through a closed idle speed control relay to hold the Sol-Vac in the solenoid kick position. To test this, you don't even need the car running. And you do need a light because you're not going to see a whole heck of a lot of movement. So we'll take the one wire that comes out of the Sol-Vac, we'll attach it to a single wire. And I will take it over here, and all I will do is tap it to the battery. As long as our carburetor is properly grounded, we'll hear the solenoid snap inside, and we'll see a very, very, very tiny bump of that push rod, and it'll push the throttle oh so slightly open. Now, if you're like me and you're doing this right now when it's cold as heck outside, it's freaking freezing outside. Find something, anything, to hold the choke completely open, because if you don't, even do a little throttle kick here, it will cause this step to go up, and it won't actually properly extend this for the purpose of testing. We need something to hold the choke open. So in this case here, I'm just holding a bottle cap in there, and that lets that completely unload. To better demonstrate this, while I was making this video, this hot engine and this completely open choke went from completely opened all the way to closed. And now it doesn't matter what the Sol-Vac does, because it's actually now set all the way in the high idle cam. And this does absolutely nothing. That doesn't mean, however, this is out of adjustment right now. Okay, let's get to the solenoid test. So I'll grab my wire here, and you'll hear it click when I tap the battery. What does that look like when you're looking at it? Like this. You see how it oh so slightly nudges it forwards? Give me a better angle here. Let's try that. That's not a whole heck of a lot, but that is properly adjusted. That's all it takes for the solenoid. Here, now let me give you an example. So right now, the idle is turned all the way down, and it's sitting at its nice low idle. I'm going to go, and I will turn the headlights on. The headlights are on, but the idle didn't change. Now if I oh so gently tap the gas, you hear how the idle went up oh so slightly? That's the solenoid portion of the Sol-Vac holding the idle just that little bit higher to compensate for the load on the engine, which is the headlights are on. If I turn the headlights off, listen to the idle. It goes back down again. Now, let's get on to the vacuum portion. There is a single vacuum port located down underneath the Sol-Vac. You should have a vacuum pump for this. Now I'm going to do one pump. We can go to 15 inches of mercury or 10, doesn't matter. But you should hold a vacuum. If at this point here you're losing your vacuum and you know both your vacuum pump and your hoses aren't leaking, your diaphragm is leaking, your Sol-Vac is defective. Otherwise, what happens is that, remember that little tiny kick we saw with the solenoid? When I apply a vacuum, this will also push on the throttle, but more than the solenoid did. Ready? Release. Vacuum. Release. And a bit more vacuum. That's all it does in movement. The adjusting screw that you see right here is for adjusting the vacuum kick. That must be set before you can adjust the solenoid. And before you can do either of these, you must first set your high idle, then your curb idle, then you set your vacuum, then you set your solenoid. Because if you do these out of sequence, it will overall impact the different idle options that are available in this car. And they do vary by 100, 200, maybe 300 RPM if you're in neutral. But all the instructions needed to set this will be located on your emissions decal on the far end of the vehicle. This thing right here. This is what it looks like for 1982. It also specifies if you have an automatic or a manual transmission. I hope this helps.